kind attention, let me introduce our presenter for this particular session to you. Dr. Samara Sterling is a research director at the Peanut Institute, USA, a nutrition scientist and registered dietitian with expertise in the role of plant-based nutrition in preventing and managing chronic diseases. She is the research director at Peanut Institute, where she oversees scientific affairs, grant management, clinical trials, community-based research projects that are aimed at improving health outcomes, particularly at-risk populations. Dr. Samara's career spans public health, academia. She has served as a medical advisory board member at the T. Colin Campbell Center for Nutrition Studies. She is an adjunct professor at Andrews University, an active contributor to the leading nutrition organizations. Dr. Sterling holds a PhD in nutrition science from the University of Alabama at Birmingham and is widely recognized for advancing evidence-based strategies to improve global health through nutrition. And as we take up this presentation, ladies and gentlemen, brace up as we dive deep into the health benefits of peanuts. What are the advances of evidences that are being made scientifically to find out, especially it being a low-cost protein source, it is something that can be used very, very prevalently, applied more widely, and I think for everyone that is associated with peanut as a commodity, if you're a part of this value chain, it's time for all of you to take pride in this commodity and understand that how valuable this commodity can turn out to serve the nutritional needs of a fastly widening and expanding global population. Over to Dr. Samara Sterling's presentation. Let's hit play.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Samara Sterling, and I am a nutrition scientist and the research and nutrition director for the Peanut Institute. We are based in Albany, Georgia, and I'm really excited to be here with you virtually today. Really sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I hope you're enjoying your conference so far. And I would like to just be a part of the conversation at this World Sesame and Peanut Conference by talking about what we are doing specifically in the area of peanuts. The title of this presentation, as we will be talking about and as you will see, is Peanuts, Superfood for Life. And we're going to be talking about the benefits of peanuts for life. So my first question for us is, if there were a magic pill that you could take that could do two things, slow aging and increase lifespan, would you take it? I would venture to guess that many of us in this audience would not say no to taking such a pill. You would want to take a pill that would increase your lifespan and slow aging down. I mean, of course, who would not want to take such a pill? Now, even though we wish it were that easy, the truth is it's not that easy, right? But when I think about this concept of this magic pill to slow aging or even reverse aging, I think about this movie that I remember watching. Some of you may remember it. It's called 18 Again. So it tells this really interesting story of this grandpa and his grandson who, for some reason, the grandpa, when he was having his birthday, wished that he would turn 18 again. Ends up in a car accident with his son, with his grandson, and voila! As he comes to being or comes to life, he realizes they just switched bodies and he is 18 again. And you can just imagine the excitement. He is able to flip and jump and do a lot of things that he was not able to do before because he has switched his age and he is 18 again. Don't you just wish it worked like that? Unfortunately, it doesn't. But I will say that in the realm of science, there are studies that are looking at this question of the secret to longevity. How can we live a longer life? And there have been two examples that you see here. Rapamycin is a drug that helps to inhibit organ rejection, and researchers have been studying how that can help to increase lifespan. How? they've given this drug to mice, and what they found was that the mice actually lived longer and healthier, but they had serious side effects. There's also a more common drug called metformin. You may have heard of this one because it's a popular diabetes drug. And what they found is that in mice who take metformin, it could actually increase their lifespan by helping cancer cells to grow more slowly, but it also comes with some serious side effects. So the question of whether or not we could extend our lifespans also comes with the question of what kind of life do I want to live if I am going to extend that lifespan? And so this age-old study of longevity has been going on for longer than we realize. So longevity, when we think about what that actually means, the simple definition of longevity is living longer than the rest. So it's a relative term, right? Because if everybody around you is living to 20 years old and you live to 30, then okay, you could say you have longevity. But in our world today, that's not really what we find, as we'll see soon. Longevity is really, yes, it does include a long duration of a person's life compared with the average of a particular population. But what we are recognizing is that longevity also includes health and the quality of life. It's not just how much life you are living or the years in your life, right? But the life in your years. So the quality that you are living as well. So how do we actually live in our world today? Well, here's our global life expectancy rate, and this is as of 2022. So it's a little bit older, but still relatively speaking for today. The darker green colors are where you see a lower life expectancy, and the brighter green colors are where you see higher life expectancies. And as you can see, our average age across the world, as far as how long we expect to live, is 72 years. The truth is that we are all living on borrowed time, right? In terms of sort of ticking away at time, tick, tick, tick. Average is 72 years. And some places of the world may be less, maybe more. So India is about 67, China is 78. But you'll see here, Canada is 81.3, the US is 77.4, but that global average is there at 72. What we've also found is this correlation between how long we live and how much we spend on healthcare. In general, the countries who spend the least on healthcare, that tends to be a function of how long we are living. These are your industrialized countries. I will say that the USA is an outlier in that because we tend to spend here a lot on healthcare and quality of life based on how much we spend in our health, but that doesn't necessarily correlate with our life expectancy, as you'll see, as for others who spend quite a bit on healthcare, and you'll see their life expectancy up. The top 20 countries for life expectancy, Japan is right at the top. We have a few Asian countries, some in Europe, but you can see, again, that average is 72 years. So let's ask ourselves the question, why do some people live longer than others? So we know the life expectancy, but what is that key reason? Is it advancements in medicine? Because we just saw from that slide that there's not necessarily that correlation between how much we're spending on healthcare, which has to do with our advancements in medicine. So that can't be the answer, but we do know that our advancements tend to lower our rates of infectious diseases, things like COVID and other diseases that are not necessarily chronic in nature. But two areas that we've considered as scientists are genetics and lifestyle. Now, if you had to guess right there where you are, I know we're virtual, but if you had to guess, how much of a percentage would you say out of 100 that each of these factors play in how long someone lives? What do you think? Well, this is still a debate in science, right? But current estimates suggest that it may actually be not what we were thinking. So genetics may actually play a smaller role. And here's one example of 10% versus lifestyle, 90%. It may vary some depending on the study that you're looking at, but the basic point to get from this is that genetics may not play as large of a factor as we think, right? Because if, for example, you have a grandmother or a mother that had cancer and died younger because of that, it doesn't necessarily mean, while you may have similar genes that can predispose you to certain conditions, doesn't necessarily mean that you will end up with cancer and then die younger. So we see that genetics may play a role, but lifestyle may even play a greater role. So one way to think about it is genetics may be the gun, lifestyle is what pulls the trigger. So in the early 2000s, a man by the name of Dan Buettner, along with National Geographic, went across the world and decided to find what's called, or what's known as, longevity hotspots. These are places where people are living the longest in the world. So they have the highest concentration of centenarians. And these were people who were just not living to be 100, but staying healthy in the process. What did they find? Well, they found 5 key blue zones across the world. They found, let's start from the right, Okinawa, Japan. And they found that the social activity of being connected to family and friends was associated with a longer lifespan in women. Ikaria, Greece. They like to nap throughout the day. Ever heard of siestas in the Mediterranean? They take napping and fasting, and that may add occasional years to the life. Sardinia, Italy is where we find the longest male lifespan. And we find that men in Sardinia love to laugh and enjoy themselves, and that may have to do with their lifespan. Nicoya, Costa Rica is where water is naturally rich in calcium and magnesium, which may help to prevent heart disease and weak bones. In the USA, we also have one blue zone, and this is very different from the other ones because it's actually a religious group of Seventh-day Adventists in Loma Linda, California. And what they found is that in this particular group, they have stress-reducing activities, healthy dietary practices, and that tends to rub off on the whole town. Now, they did also find 6 commonalities across all of these blue zones. And what are some lessons that we can learn about these blue zones and what helps people to live longer here? Here are some of these 6 commonalities. Number 1, folks knew their purpose. They had a reason for waking up in the morning. It wasn't just going by in the day or sitting on the couch throughout the day. They kicked back. They found ways to de-stress and take time off. They understood the power of love. So caring for an aging parent or committing to a partner. Number 4, they didn't go to the gym like we tend to do. They tended to find natural physical activity practices like walking or cycling or gardening. I was in Japan a few years ago, and that's one of the things that I found there, is that folks, even in their 80s, 90s, were out cycling and walking just in the middle of the day or in the morning time, enjoying that moving of naturally moving their limbs. Number 5, they didn't eat till their belt buckles were bursting. They ate when they were 80 until they were 80% full. So they weren't overstuffing themselves. They enjoyed their meals and stopped when they were full. And then number 6, blue zone superfoods. They ate a diet that was rich and centered around nutrient-rich plant foods. So their diets were largely plant-based. May be different in various areas of the world. Some may choose a little bit of fish here, dairy here and there, but mostly plants were centered on that plate. So this idea of superfoods, what exactly is that? Well, I'll tell you straight up as a scientist that the term superfood is not a scientific term. It is more of a marketing term, right? But the term itself is defined as a nutrient-rich food considered to be especially beneficial for health and well-being. And we've seen this worldwide search for superfoods, whether it's chia seeds or acai berries. We hear people talk about goji berries and moringa, jackfruit, but did you know that sesame seeds and also peanuts fall right into the definition of superfoods? So peanuts fit very well that definition of superfoods because it is a nutrient-rich food filled with vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants, and it is especially beneficial for human health. What are we talking about today? It's this idea of longevity, living longer than the rest. Do we find that peanuts can also help us live longer than the rest? Well, yes, we do. But first, what is it that makes peanuts so nutritious that can even help us to live a longer life? Number one, peanuts are a good source of high quality plant-based protein. In fact, peanuts have more protein than any other nut. Number two, peanuts are a good source of fiber. This helps our gut bacteria to produce compounds that help with our health overall and digestion. Healthy fats for our heart and satiety. Also, vitamins and minerals that help us to be well and have vitality. And then bioactives that are good for our brain and anti-inflammation. Peanuts are so nutritious and good for you that even our president here in the US, our previous president, President Jimmy Carter, who was also a peanut farmer himself, said this. He said, if you want to live a long and healthy life like me, just eat peanuts. And you even see him wearing that superfood shirt in the picture there. He lived until 100 years old, died very recently in 2024. And so, but we asked this question, is this idea of superfoods and foods helping us live a longer life, is it really backed by science? Well, at the Peanut Institute, this is something that we are actively studying. Here's our motto here. It's doing our part in creating a healthier world. We grow the awareness of the health benefits of peanuts and peanut products through targeted research and communication. And you can see here a lot of the research that we do that's based in very many different countries. In fact, we have a study that's ongoing right now in India that's looking at diabetes prevention, which is so prevalent there and in many other places of the world. And we've had recent publications in very many areas looking at how peanuts can help to improve our health. But what about longevity? Science-based information on longevity. Well, Bob Hope said, you know you're getting old when the candles cost more than the cake. Not quite the scientific answer that you're expecting. Well, here's one study that was done over a 20-year period in over 100,000 adults. That study tracked adults who were consuming peanuts and other nuts and those who were not consuming them. And what they found was that the individuals who were consuming at least 2 servings per week of peanuts and other nuts, they actually had a 13% lower risk of dying prematurely from disease. So it lowered their risk of dying early on. And if you're not dying from disease early on, then that can also lead to a better quality of life, so you have more health in the years that you are living. It wasn't just this study, but there was a study that came out of Vanderbilt University that looked at the benefits of peanuts and peanut butter across cultures. So what about if people are living in different countries? Do they see the same benefit? So they looked at Chinese individuals, over 130,000 of them, and they also looked at over 70,000 Americans. And what they found was that in both cohorts, in both cultures, people who included more peanuts in their diets had in general a lower risk of dying prematurely. And that was with peanuts and peanut butter. You see a 17% lower risk of dying prematurely by eating peanuts and a 14% lower risk of dying prematurely by eating peanut butter. And I will say that in this study, they weren't using any special kind of products, special kind of peanuts or special kind of peanut butter. These were just the regular peanuts and peanut butter that you find on your store shelves. So amazing stuff that we have seen in the research here. Now, the next question you may be asking is, well, why do we see these kinds of associations in the study? Is this really real? Well, let me explain something called nutrigenomics. So nutrigenomics is this area of nutrition science that says that the nutrients that we eat in foods, including peanuts, may actually go deeper into the cells of our body to target our genes by altering our DNA activity. In other words, we may have genes for a specific disease, like I mentioned cancer before, but our lifestyle and the way that we eat may be responsible for turning certain genes on or certain genes off so that they're expressed or not expressed. What that may look like is you may get a disease or not get a disease, live longer or not live longer. So nutrigenomics looks at how nutrients can impact our DNA activity, and we found very similar qualities in peanuts. Let me tell you about a recent study that just came out that was supported by the Peanut Institute, done at the University of Barcelona in Spain. And this study was looking at telomeres, which are protective caps at the end of our chromosomes. Again, we're talking about DNA and genetic material. So telomeres, you can think of them as what's at the end of your shoelaces. And that, if you know that little cap at the end of your shoelace, that can unravel over time, right? So you see the orange on the screen, that's our telomeres. That can also unravel over time and shorten over time. We call that telomere attrition. And as that shortens, if it shortens too rapidly, that's associated with accelerated aging and also various diseases. Two connected situations, but not necessarily happening at the same time. So associated with accelerating aging and also getting a disease. And what we found this year, this was recently released, was that young adults who consumed peanuts regularly, 1 serving of peanuts per day for 6 months, they found that this helped to actually increase those caps at the end of the chromosomes, the telomere length, and that in essence was protecting their DNA and is associated with healthier aging and longevity. These results pointed to one way in which peanuts can help to increase our lifespan. The results were so unique that even the Daily Mail published it just this month. The Daily Mail, or in August, sorry. The Daily Mail came out with this article that said the peanut panacea, eating just a handful of the snack every day could slow down aging. And what did they find? They said that forget all those costly anti-aging creams or wrinkle-busting Botox jabs. The real secret to staying young could simply be eating a handful of peanuts every day. Now, I will say as a scientist, that's a little bit of a stretch, but those results were really quite exciting and pointed to one way in which peanuts can impact our longevity. And overall, here's a review that was done that showed that the current evidence supports a daily recommendation to consume at least 1 handful of nuts and seeds per day to reduce risk of premature death. So eating just 1 handful of peanuts, that can impact our health and ultimately our longevity. So another reason, again, we see these benefits is that it is said that the older we get, the sicker we get. If we look at the leading causes of death across the world, heart disease, cancer, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, diabetes, kidney disease, eating peanuts regularly can help to reduce the risk of many of these top diseases. In fact, 7 out of 10 of our leading causes of death, our research has shown that eating peanuts regularly can reduce your risk for these diseases and thereby help to increase your health and longevity. For example, we found that adding just 2 tablespoons of peanut butter to your breakfast can help to control blood sugar spikes throughout the day. So that helps with controlling diabetes. We've also found that eating peanuts can help to lower risk of stroke. What you are seeing on your screen is what's called a cerebral angiogram. So you see the blood coming from your heart to your brain. And what you see there is what we call arterial stenosis. So a narrowing of those blood vessels can impact how much blood can get to the brain, and that's what impacts a person's risk for stroke. Well, a large study analyzed the impact of nut consumption on having a stroke, and I'll tell you, peanuts were the only nut that was found to lower the risk of not just getting a stroke, but dying from that stroke. Other nut types were not significantly associated with that outcome, and get this, the benefits for peanuts were seen in only 0.7 to 4.3 peanuts per day. So not even a handful, you're still getting that benefits, but we want you to make sure that you're getting the best out of the peanuts that you are consuming. So make sure you're eating that handful per day. So now, why does this actually matter? Well, I just want to step back a bit and say that each of us in this audience today, we all know at least one person with a chronic disease. And many of us are frustrated with limited or no answers to our health problems. We are all motivated because we want a better quality of life and we want to be there for our loved ones. When we see that 60% of us have at least one chronic disease, this is a motivating factor for many of us. And we also recognize that vitality is not just how old we get, but it is how we get old. We want to have that quality of life, and longevity is a part of that quality of life. I'll talk about one more area of longevity, and that has to do with the brain. Because as we age, our risk for developing brain-related diseases also increases. And we know that Alzheimer's disease is the only one of those top 10 diseases that cannot be cured. In fact, we know that medications are 99.6% ineffective. So we need to find solutions for brain health that go beyond medicines and advancements in medications that we'll find. You'll see here a normal brain for a person. You'll see a healthy looking brain. Areas where we can think and plan and remember are seen very visibly. But in Alzheimer's disease, we see severe shrinkage of those areas that have to do with memory, thinking, planning, and remembering. And this is really concerning, again, because of the high failure rate of Alzheimer's disease drugs. So looking to diet, is there anything that we can do to help? Well, in a small way, one study has found recently that eating peanuts for older adults at risk for getting dementia and Alzheimer's disease, the peanut group had greater improvements in memory compared to the control group and greater improvements in their attention span. We can't necessarily say yet that they would never get Alzheimer's disease, but this is a really good step in that direction. And also for other conditions that they had, eating peanuts lowered their blood pressure by 6.6%. We've also found this for young adults who are also thinking about healthy aging as they're growing older. There was a study that was done in college-age students between the ages of 18 to 33, and over a 6-month period, those who consumed peanuts and peanut butter had better short-term memory, lower anxiety scores, and lower depression scores. And they also had lower levels of cortisol, which is a well-known stress hormone, and that can lead to better health and better quality of life. We've been able to identify specific compounds within the peanuts that are associated with lower depression, lower anxiety, and improved health in general. And we know that this is important for consumers because 70% of consumers are interested in foods that improve our gut health and improve our brain health as well. So for peanuts, what is it that makes them special when it comes on to brain health? Well, peanuts have more niacin than any other nut. They also have more arginine than any other nut. Arginine is a well-known vasodilator. It just means it expands our blood vessels so that blood can flow freely through, carrying oxygen to our organs, to our heart, to our brain, to areas in our body that need it the most. Peanuts also contain vitamin E and very long-chain saturated fatty acids, which are associated with better cognition. And they also have antioxidants and bioactives that help our brain be the healthiest that they can be. Now, I want to take a step back again and say, well, we've talked about superfoods in the beginning of this lecture, and we've seen that we've got our chia seeds, our goji berries, we've got our kale, we've got all of these superfoods on the market today. In the area of nutrition, what is it that makes peanuts a special superfood? Well, I would like to say that small changes make a big difference because as a unique superfood, peanuts deliver benefits with just a small amount of consumption. Look at the other superfoods here. So our daily recommendation for vegetables. So you eat a plate of spinach, 2 cups per day, a cup of beans per day. If you want to get your benefits out of fruits, and I love berries, that's 2 cups per day. But look at how much you can eat of peanuts and still reap the benefits. Just 1 handful per day. And that is where I believe it's unique. In addition to the fact that it's economical, low in cost, everybody loves it, easy to consume, and just that one handful per day can make a big difference. So what have we found? Eating peanuts contributes to a longer, healthier life by doing two things. Number one, protecting our DNA, and number two, reducing risk for age-related chronic diseases. I want to invite you to visit our website at peanutinstitute.com, where you can learn about this and other health information that we have. Stay in touch with us about our research so that you can be informed about all the exciting work that we are doing here. And with that, I want to thank you again for the opportunity to be a part of this conference. I will just leave you with this quote by George Burns, where he says, "You can't help getting older, but you don't have to get old." In other words, we can age gracefully and healthily. So stay in touch with us at the Peanut Institute by visiting peanutinstitute.com, or you can email me at ssterling@peanut-institute.com. My phone number is there. You can also scan that QR code to be taken directly to our website so you can learn all the amazing information that we have there. Again, I would like to just say thank you for the opportunity to speak today. It's a pleasure being here with you virtually at this conference, and I hope that you're as excited about peanuts as I am, and that you will continue to have a wonderful time at this conference. See you soon.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for your attention as well.